Welcome back. I'm Alfred Webre, and here we are once again in COVIDGATE, your successor to Watergate and many other gates. But here we're in COVIDGATE, June 11th, 2020, with 7 coming to us from London, and where 7-gate is hard at work trying to create COVIDGATE. If you follow our meaning. 7, over to you.
Good evening, Alfred. I'm glad to be back again after yesterday being sabotaged. And good evening, everybody at home. Welcome back to our 7 at 7 with COVIDGATE. And our guest today was supposed to be Kate, but I know that she's been in court, so I haven't heard from her. So today what we're going to do is share some of the information that's coming through in regards to this whole COVIDGATE situation. And believe me, it seems to get more and more ridiculous as the time goes on. But it's all unraveling and it's all in the people's favor. So if you want to start, Alfred, with the wonderful news that you received today.
Oh, sure. Let me see if this shows up on share screen. Hold on a second. I'm not sure. Let me see if it does share. Let me start that. And nope, that's not it. So I will go down. It doesn't really. Let me see where that, here we go. Coronavirus Act. And what we'll do is this. And share screen again, attempting, if not, I'll just read it. Here we go. Okay, so as you can see, there's a new legal opinion out. The UK Coronavirus Act 2020 is null and void because the principal actors behind the pandemic are proceeding outside the rule of law. They're basically Luciferians, Satanists, who follow the law. Do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. It's this pseudo Luciferian Satanist mumbo jumbo, every Thursday night, let's go down to the hall, to the Freemasonry hall, and be pseudo Satanists. And you can see in the USA, for example, where there's been a whole satanic ritual, mass hysteria, triggered by the false flag. I know that people are going to find it controversial. George Floyd death by the policeman, because they were both colleagues. And George Floyd, they were both bouncers at the same nightclub. And George...
Yeah, I heard that.
I'm sorry?
I heard that. What's the story behind that then? I heard they were both security men or something.
Yeah, it's a total false flag. And George Floyd passed a $20 counterfeit bill because he was being paid off by a counterfeit ring, and waited outside the door to be arrested by the police for the false flag set up by CNN that came to film it. And now they've deconstructed the CIA filming as the pandemic for this whole worldwide demonstration that's being done by Operation Mockingbird. Because the CIA, the deep state, has editors in media worldwide, since all the mainstream media worldwide is controlled by 6 companies, all of which are controlled by the Rothschilds, that are reptilian DNA hybrids. They're doing all of this. And so they follow what thou wilt is the whole of the law. They don't follow the rule of law. And so this article came out on June 8th, 2020. Today's Thursday, June 11th. The Corona Act virus, the Coronavirus Act 2020 is null and void under the rule of law. So if you are in a court in England, and all of Anglo-Saxon jurisprudence essentially ends up in the High Court of London, of England, be that the courts of any Commonwealth country or the courts of the USA. The ultimate jurisprudence comes out of the High Courts, the Inns of Court, and Westminster. It says the following document is actually a pledge drive on the site Crowd Justice. It is an excellent and succinct read, nailing, as it does the UK government, having stepped outside its authority. Remember, you were talking, Judge Seven, and you are a judge on the Natural and Common Law Tribunal for Public Health and Justice. As it does the UK government, having stepped outside its authority, ultra-virus, and existing legal acts of 1984 and 2004 to produce one that is basically illegal. Among other things, the petition brings into question the very existence of COVID-19 as not having even been established according to the well-established Koch postulates, the uselessness of the PCR diagnostic test, and the absurd modeling of Neil Ferguson in the UK. And we showed in our proceedings that the very NHS had taken the coronavirus, COVID-19, off of the index of infectious diseases of high consequence, which had SARS and all of the other diseases on there. They had taken it off as of March 19th, 2020. And yet they have the entire planet mandated to wear masks under 9,000 euro fines in Europe. You know, so this is about social control.
Absolutely.
And, you know, Tilbrooks is the name of the solicitors attached to the appeal. And so the Corona Act 2020 is null and void. The People's Brexit, we are a legal research and campaign group, and right now we are fighting for democracy and rights of the people of the UK. June 1st, 2020. Our legal review process has commenced. We are the People's Brexit, a group of solicitors, legal researchers, and campaigners. We have been extensively researching the current legal situation since the illegal lockdown, depriving us of all our democracy, human rights, and freedoms. See, this is surfaced in the UK. We have yet to see this in the US. We have now established, although there are a lot of demonstrations out in the streets, we have now established the Coronavirus Act 2020 is null and void. There are many reasons for this. The main one being that S11 of the Act defines coronavirus as being COVID-19, or its other name, SARS-CoV-2. However, by virtue of the fact that it is not legally, medically, or scientifically recognized as a disease or virus, it cannot be legislated against, and this makes the whole act null and void. The reason for this is that COVID-19 has not been subjected to the 130-year established legal, medical, and scientific procedure that recognizes if it is actually a disease or a virus or not, which is known as the Koch postulates. This involves purifying and isolating the disease or virus and proving that it actually causes the illness that it is claimed that it does. And this is the problem. The only reason that they've been able to enforce this is through the unlawful big tech, namely Google, Facebook, Twitter, and others that are blocking and censoring all of the scientific information that it
That's
comes
right.
from electromagnetic frequencies of 5G. That's what
right.
caused it initially. It's like what happened in 1918 with the Spanish flu when they turned on radio.
Absolutely. It was
Yeah,
radio frequencies, that's right. And in fact,
yeah,
historically, for centuries, and there's been a correlation between radio frequencies and a pandemic. This has been consistent. I have a whole chart which charts every single introduction of radio waves or radio frequencies. Bam, a pandemic happens at the same time. It's been going on like this throughout history, and it's a document that I want to share with everybody. Perhaps we'll get time to do it, if not later tomorrow or another day.
yeah.
But this is very important because it also cites something that I have been flagging up, ultra virus. It says here that the government has acted ultra virus, acting beyond one's legal powers against the rule of law. I said that, how many months ago did I say this, Alfred? In March. Not only did they, excuse me, not only did they do this, they also are in breach of the Declaration of the Human Rights. You know, there are 7 fundamental rights and freedoms we as people have, and every single one of them in this instance has been breached. Besides that, they didn't hold any referendum for the creation of this coronavirus bill or the changing of the legislation for the Control of Infectious Disease Act, which was 1984. There was no referendum for that, and there hasn't been any referendum for this contact and trace, and also this legislation making it mandatory for people to wear masks. All of this, including the lockdown, is, as far as law is concerned, is highly unlawful. And in fact, it's a crime against humanity, which we've established. So this is really good news, Alfred, but go ahead if you want to read the rest of it, because I think everybody needs to hear this.
Sure, sure. And as you were saying, the government has acted ultra virus, acting beyond one's legal powers and against the rule of law. There are a multitude of procedural and legal errors made when the government enacted this legislation, including enforcing the act on 23rd March with the lockdown before it actually became law with royal assent on 25 March. In addition, the act facilitates misreporting of deaths from various illnesses that it is claimed are also suffering with COVID-19, as doctors are told to just use guesswork as to the cause of death. That's to cover up the 5G, which all of the big tech is guilty of putting in because they are in ownership positions and related oligopolies with the 5G industries.
That's right.
This has been happening since 10 March, long before the act became law and allows the COVID-19 statistics to increase rapidly. There is no doubt the figures are being manipulated, and any excess mortality is due to the terrible, inhumane suffering, fear, and neglect caused by the lockdown itself. With life-saving treatment canceled and people too terrified to seek urgent medical help. Also, existing legislation should have been used for a pandemic, such as the Infectious Disease Act, 1984, and if this was not sufficient, the Civil Contingencies Act, 2004, should have been used. This would have protected our human rights, as Section 20 of the Act demanded, along with other requirements and protections under the Act, including due proportion, parliamentary scrutiny, and a duration of only 30 days maximum. This is outlined in the Department of Health's report, UK Influenza Pandemic Preparedness Strategy 2011. This report made it clear that the rule of law should be upheld and life should carry on as normal for the healthy. not the deliberately induced fear and hysterics and disproportionate reactions as an excuse for taking away our human rights, civil liberties, and destroying our economy in the process. Shamefully, the Coronavirus Act 2020 has been written as an enabling act, worse than even Hitler in Nazi Germany had. It is an abomination that has been used by the government to illegally seize absolute property and control and has no place in a modern democracy. As COVID-19 has never been isolated or proven to be a virus or disease, it cannot be tested for. Instead of COVID-19 being tested for, what is actually being tested for is genetic material and an RNA sequence based on lung fluid extracted from Chinese patients. The genetic material is found in everyone and at higher levels in very ill people suffering from any illness. Further, the test that is being used is called RT-PCR, and the inventor said it should never be used for diagnostics. This is because it is not a gold standard test that would give 100% accuracy. In fact, there's a false positive rate of 80% of the test. So they are testing people, writing laws that say if you're tested positive, we can invade your house, grab you, and take you to a camp.
That's right.
Even though there's 80% positive. So this shows you that this is coming down, as our colleague Miles Johnstone said yesterday. This is coming from the DVD, which is the secret embedded Nazi secret government from the Fourth Reich, now the Fifth Reich, that is secretly embedded in the UK government, in the US government, and in many governments worldwide. That's exactly what it is. This means that the test is meaningless, as it is just testing for genetic material and not coronavirus. And even that is only a real positive for 1 in 5 people. Other tests being used are as bad or even worse. Further, using these tests, anyone can test either positive or negative, depending on how many cycles the specimen is amplified by, and as such, the test can easily be rigged. Now, you've got Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of the UK. You've got Donald Trump, President of the US. There's a mutual admiration society there. Donald Trump's first wife said he used to sleep with a copy of Adolf Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, on his nightstand. It seems like the German DVD, the German secret underground that has infiltrated all the governments through Operation Paperclip, which is very extensive, where they brought in, the Nazis faked losing the war, and they infiltrated themselves into all of the governments. We've shown that Angela Merkel is a daughter or granddaughter of Adolf Hitler, that Barack Obama was raised by the daughter of Hitler. It's all this, you know, so now you know why Donald Trump was informed of the coronavirus pandemic in November, December 2019 and did nothing about it, right? He said, oh, it's nothing. And the United States has the largest number of deaths, 100,000. And the UK has a second larger number of deaths, right?
Manufactured deaths, yeah. We need to add.
Oh, sure, but
manufactured.
It's still bringing a people down, right? Like if you want to bring a people down, okay?
Absolutely. I wanted to just say that everything in the paragraph that you have here, just this paragraph where it says further the test, just above this capital paragraph, just this section here is absolutely spot on of what Kate said, Kate Shamarani. the natural nurse in a toxic world. Kate, you are absolutely on the money because everything you've stated is absolutely here. We did a panel with Kate and she broke this down for word, which shows that she was right all along. You know, and so we're getting confirmations that we've been on the right path doing what we're doing because, you know, we have to stand up for our rights and liberties. You know, we can't just let people railroad our lives and actually dictate to us. You know, this is an absolute dictator. The whole situation was not done in accordance with any fairness, any form of law. It wasn't done in accordance with holding any form of referendums whereby people had a say of what was going on with their lives. This is all being pushed and everybody else has to just go along with it. And, you know, obviously each and every one of us has a right of reply and we have the right not to be domestically terrorized, which is effectively what this is. You know, it's a continuation of the domestic terrorism that many of us in the UK has been facing for a long time, me 17 years. So Alfred, if you want to read this paragraph, because this is quite interesting.
Yeah. So it goes on. We want the government to be immediately banned from conducting any further, quote, coronavirus testing. They are not really testing for coronavirus, but these results are being weaponized and used to deprive us of our democracy, human rights, and freedoms. Also, our finances are being affected and our economy destroyed, all based on false results. People are also dying as treatment is being denied, as the NHS focus is only on so-called COVID-19. People have also been so frightened by the relentless media brainwashing that they are now not requesting urgent medical help when they need it. Further, the lockdown and social distancing were measures that were forced upon us and were based upon advice by government advisors and from modeling estimates, not even peer-reviewed. These, quote, advisors from Imperial College, including Professor Neil Ferguson, have a track record of complete failure, including the slaughter of millions of healthy animals and the ruin of livelihoods during the foot and mouth debacle. These absurd measures have no proven medical or scientific effectiveness, and even the opposite is true. And these measures are considered dangerous by many top international doctors. This is even reinforced by the World Health Organization, who themselves, in their report, Non-Pharmaceutical Interventions for Pandemic Influenza, National and Community Measures from 2006, which is on the official American government health website, the writers of which include current members of SAGE, government advisors. This report criticizes forced isolation and quarantine, branding these measures, quote, ineffective and impractical. And yet they put the entire world into forced isolation and quarantine.
This is criminal. Absolutely criminal.
These are war crimes.
Absolutely.
Crimes against humanity and genocide under the International Criminal Code. It also states that, quote, legal authority and procedures for implementing intervention should also be understood in advance and should respect cultural differences and human rights. So why isn't anybody in the UK, which is a member of the International Criminal Court, for which, for example, they extradited the dictator Pinochet from Chile, even while he was a protege of the then Prime Minister Thatcher. Mm-hmm. Why isn't anybody filing suit in the International Criminal Court in Britain, which you can do in British courts?
Even calling for these people to be removed.
Exactly.
That's a start. I mean,
perhaps we should start organizing that with your colleagues in Britain to bring an action in British courts under the International Criminal Court statute, which can be done, which has been, okay. Crucially, the report states that at phase 6 of a pandemic, when a pandemic is officially declared. WHO declared it to be a pandemic on 11 March 2020. Measures such as tracing and quarantine should not be attempted. This means that, according to the WHO themselves, neither the UK or the rest of the world should have been put in lockdown. It states, quote, patient isolation and tracing and quarantine of contacts should cease, as such measures will no longer be feasible or useful. We feel that, quote, the NHS tracing app and the 25,000 tracers are yet more infringements of our rights and privacy, and this is an outrage and illegal. This also has sinister potential to be weaponized and used to terrify the population into thinking they have so-called COVID-19 and the potential to keep a, quote, pandemic going indefinitely. They're being exposed.
Absolutely.
The whole plan is being exposed here.
Absolutely. And they didn't mention, they mentioned the contact and tracing, but they didn't mention even the use of dogs, which was very much part of that plan as well. I mean, they may well have do it later on. But again, that was another absolute atrocity that the very idea that they would even think of using dogs is something more out of the hunting. This is why when I saw the poster, the hunting party, everybody's invited, everybody's a suspect. It's very much in kin with this whole contact and trace type, program, It's horrible. It really is horrible. And it is akin to domestic terrorism of populations rather than any control. There's no compassion there. There was no talk of any proper health care or consideration for health care. Now, for me, as somebody who has created a whole multimedia platform to bring about awareness with health and support health, who as a result of creating that platform has had my life and my family's life torn apart for the last 17 years, I can tell you for a fact there is no concern for anybody's health. There's no concern whatsoever. If you look at just my case and you go to the farrellreport.net, you will see the 7-gate case shows you quite clearly that there is an absolute lack of concern, consideration. In fact, what we're dealing with is cruelty, absolute cruelty, and demonizing, punishing victims, and upholding criminals and terrorists. That's what's going on. Criminals are being ostracized, treated badly, treated unfairly, whereas the criminals are being protected. This is the culture that is going on in the UK, and it has to change. It has to change. And the only way it will change is if we stand up united and actually say we've had enough. There has to be a removal of these types of people. Otherwise, once this is over, we're going to have something else. And it will be a hell of a lot worse than this. So, Alfred, if you want to continue.
Sure. They go on. This case is about democracy and righting a wrong that has been done to us all. The Coronavirus Act 2020 needs to be immediately null and void, and fake coronavirus testing must be immediately banned. Also, no more lockdown, fake social distancing and tracing policies, or government and media brainwashing. Initially, we need to raise £30,000, but then we will need to raise over £125,000 to get our lives back to the old normal they should be. Please contribute to our action and help us get our powers back to where they belong, with us, the people, not with the politicians. We should not be at the mercy of them and their failed advisors. We will also be seeking retribution. We will be helping and showing the way to the rest of the world that they do not have to accept this either. The UK is supposed to be the mother of democracy, but now we find ourselves in an enforced dictatorship based upon false evidence and fake and draconian policies that were not even effective in 1918 before modern medicine, let alone in the 21st century. So then they go on to the original article, which, we could open up. So that is, in essence, there. Now, so one would hope that one could find the equivalent of the Civil Liberties Union that could begin to move this on a pro bono basis. So you wouldn't have to wait to raise 125,000 pounds or 30,000 pounds, which is a lot of money, to begin to bring injunctions
absolutely.
to enjoin these actions.
I wanted to just, sorry to cut you there, Alfred, apologies. I wanted to just say that as everybody knows, I'm owed a great deal of money that's been stolen by Virgin, who are now controlling the NHS. So if people want to get behind me, some people have come forward, but if people want to get behind me getting the money that's owed to me, that's been stolen, and we could actually turn this situation around very, very quickly. So anybody who's interested in actually supporting the action to get money that I have been that's been stolen from me, it's being withheld. I took proceedings in the high courts, won a massive case, and 17 years later they're terrorizing me and my family to prevent paying me. And one of those companies involved is Virgin. So, if people at home support the move that, we want to change things, please get in touch. Any lawyers, anybody who is, even if you're just a member of the public and wherever you are in the world and you want to support me being paid the stolen money, because that stolen money is what's funding all of this. We're talking about billions of pounds is funding domestic terror against everybody. And we have to change it by taking the money back, the stolen money back, and actually implementing positive programs that protect us, number one, because we don't have any policing forces that are protecting us as members of society. We have basically no healthcare system because it's been taken over. Right now, I would say that when people are ill, it's quite dangerous to go to the hospital. For anybody who doesn't feel well, this is the feeling now that, it's unsafe, because we've had nurses come forward saying that people are being murdered inside the hospitals, and I'm inclined to believe them. My father was died suspiciously in the hospital. And so we know that the things that we're seeing have been going on for a very long time in the UK. But this corona situation has actually highlighted a number of the crimes that many of us have faced in the UK. And there's a whole catalogue of things, in regards to the COVID-19 situation. We've seen reports more recently that the CDC was paying the hospitals to falsely state that people had coronavirus when they didn't. We've seen a report in the last couple of days that Bill Gates actually paid to announce the pandemic. We know about the event 201, which took place in October, which shows that all of this was already in the pipeline. And basically, people like me who are being fleeced of our wealth, all of that money is going towards funding these types of nightmares. So I'm asking if anybody's interested and you want to get involved in, the payback, which is money that is owed to me, which we want to use for the betterment of the whole in society. I do these shows, I don't get paid for them. I do them off the love of humanity. I've had, my cousin has been poisoned. Many of you have seen my cousin on shows with me before. And, they even denied us the right to give him a decent burial. You know, this is the level of horrors. You know, as I said yesterday in my recording, in the telephone conversation with Alfred, I'm being completely abused. You know, they're stopping, blocking internet. They're doing all sorts of things to keep us in a state of absolute hell on earth. And Miles, I listened to Miles's interview with yourself, Alfred, yesterday, and he said something that was very poignant. He said that they want to keep us in a state of misery and make our lives extremely unhappy. I mean, who would want to do that? You know, the problem that we face, you know, is the fact that we have people who do not have humanity's interest at heart. That's the root of this. Whatever they are, demonically possessed, whatever they are, these people have demonstrated again and again and again and again that they do not have humanity's interest at heart. So we have, the option is that we replace them with people that do have humanity's interest at heart. That's the only possible solution. Because after this will be something else and something else and something else. And we'll spend another however many years debunking, decoding, and exposing another set of atrocities. You know, I've been on this with Alfred for the last 5 years saying the same thing. And so we have an opportunity to use the situation in our favor and basically start saying enough is enough. We need change, we need positive change, we need transformation. You know, anybody out there in America, please look at Alfred's submission to run for office. That's really important if you're in the US or you're in Canada. Please vote for Alfred. You know, put it in the comments. Let us know that you want to vote for Alfred so that we can show you how to do that. We're going to have a special show about it on the 14th. Is it the 14th, Alfred? That we're going to run the show?
Yeah, Sunday, June 14th. And we're getting a petition ready that so that people can actually vote. So it's a visible thing.
That's wonderful.
Ready. Yeah.
Right, so, you know, please, we need change. I'm sure all of you who watch these videos agree that we need change. We can't be going on with this month after month, month after month, week after week, year after year, the same paradigm, and it just gets worse and worse and more people get affected. God knows how many people have been murdered in regards to this entire situation. It's horrendous. It's horrendous, and we have a duty to the future generations and to ourselves, to our, you know, fellow brothers and sisters around the world, to protect each other. You know, we are the 99%, and we have a very powerful voice once we assert it in unison. And that's where we need to be, in unison on this issue. We've had enough. We don't want to live like this anymore. If they want to live like that, they need to live like that amongst themselves, not inflict it upon the rest of us. So, Alfred, in regards to that document, do you want to read any more, or should we?
I think that we actually came to the end of it, to the end of the intro. So why don't you come with whatever you'd like to cover.
Okay, I wanted to just give people the information where they can see that. Where would they find that, Alfred? For anybody who wants to have a look at the article.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the article that accompanies this this video, and it'll be on my Facebook page also, and on Twitter. So,
and what about, will it appear on News Inside Out, on Exopolitics?
Yes, it'll appear on our special COVIDGATE blog, and it'll appear on the COVIDGATE page on Facebook.
Okay, so if you want to go on to Alfred Weber's Facebook page, or you can go on to News Inside Out and you will see that, and just type in /COVIDGATE and this article will come up. There are many, many more. I'm seeing daily different articles that are coming up that are very, very important to flag up. This is why they're blocking my recording program, to stop me being able to bring the real information to you that affects your lives and all our lives together. So we're going to look at another email that was quite interesting. I'm going to share the screen. Let's see if this will work. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yes, it is coming up. It's fine.
Okay, so this is from Sally El-Cordy,
Yes.
and basically she's from Vaccine Free America, and she sent a wonderful, we've had a few really, really brilliant emails in regards to some of the actions that are taking place around the world. But this one was very good because it's succinct and it's very informative as to the situation that is at hand. Now it says the CDC admitted they screwed up COVID-19 infection counts and intentionally misled the public and have apologized. So here we have it. The CDC have admitted they screwed up COVID-19 infection counts and intentionally misled the public and have apologized, clarifying that the amount of people truly affected is much lower than what was originally reported. An error so egregious it made the director of Harvard Global Health Institute say, "How could the CDC make this mistake? This is a mess." So here we have it. It's all unfolding, people. And, you know, things that we have been saying from the very beginning is all coming out in the wash. The American Coronavirus Task Force also admitted to fudging the national COVID-19 death count when Dr. Briggs said the deaths are people who died with COVID-19, not from COVID-19. In other words, they must have even given it to them. You know, that's a very important distinction, because when they say with it, how did they get it? They didn't die from it, thus making the real death count much lower than what was currently reported. Dr. Anthony Fauci admitted masks won't help against the coronavirus because mask manufacturers are now including warnings that their products do not deter COVID-19, whatever COVID-19 is. Because as it's been established, it's not an infectious disease. This is a buzzword for certificate of vaccination ID, 19. And it's also, as Naya pointed out, it's also a black bird. It's got a lot of other meanings, but it has nothing to do with an infectious disease. That's what we know for sure. Fauci also said continuing to close the country could cause irreparable damage. Absolutely. They've done so much damage to people's homes. It's monumental. Monumental for anybody to allow any of these people to remain in the same positions of power. That will be the main problem that we face. Not holding anybody to account and not removing them. CDC backtracked their initial claim that led governors to shut down their states and clarified that COVID-19 does not spread easily on surfaces. I saw something the other day where they actually admitted it's not infectious and it doesn't pass from person to person. Once again, confirming that all of this was a lot of hogwash. Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, confirmed the recent health studies showing that 70% of new infections actually originate at home, thus making stay-at-home orders one of the most dangerous mandates currently in place. Trump stopped funding the WHO and threatened to cut off money permanently until they can prove they are no longer corruptly influenced by communist China after they lied to our country about human-to-human transition of COVID-19 in January. Because they said in January that it cannot be transferred from human to human. Even California is opening up sooner than anyone expected because the evidence contradicts the long-standing and inaccurate narrative still upheld by extremely dishonest and corrupt media, and obviously still officials, because they're still banging on with this corona lie. You know, in the UK, they're continually banging on about it, despite the whole world knowing that this was a manufactured, horrific situation that is absolutely criminal from start to finish. If you're still living in fear, don't be. The media, global organizations, the government and its agencies misled the public. People called those of us who knew this all along conspiracy theories, but it turns out we were just following the facts. Open up your businesses, churches and homes. Don't fall for the lies any longer. If you fell for the lies this time, wake up and join the army of truth seekers fighting on the front lines. Okay, because the CDC just confirmed 0%, 0.2 death rate for COVID-19. Okay. The CDC just confirmed, all right, I just read that. For that, we have added nearly 6 trillion to national debt, laid off 50 million workers, placed 60 million on food stamps, gone from 3.5% to 14.7% unemployed, crippled petroleum industry, ruined tourist industry, bankrupted the service industry, caused impending meat and protein crisis, threatened, fined and arrested church leaders, exacerbated mental health problems, shut down schools and colleges, given unbridled power and unelected officials, increased suicides higher than COVID deaths, delayed surgeries and treatments for profound illnesses, infringed upon countless important civil liberties, placed 300 million Americans and people around the world on house arrest. These consequences are largely due to two things. The first, in our view, of government as a god can control providence and plagues, and our hubris, I don't know how to say this. We increasingly view the government as a deity who can stop acts of nature, and that's laughable. The second is sniveling 21st century commitment to safety. Our desire to be safe ruined our physical, medical, food, energy, and national security. Unfortunately, there is no vaccine for cultural fragility. Written by J.D. Hall. Very well done, J.D. Hall. You did a very good job. So there you have it. I mean, that's just another example of many documents and camps around the world that is coming forward with the facts. I'm going to stop sharing now. We have 1 minute before we're going to close today. So Alfred, do you want to sign off with anything in particular?
I just want to say that I think today's program, we've really brought some bottom line facts here. And if YouTube censors this program, YouTube is entering into major war crimes and will be cited as such. Over to you.
Absolutely. So thank you to everybody for tuning in with us again for 7 at 7. and tune in with us tomorrow. We'll publish this and we'll see you tomorrow. Anything else, Alfred?
That's it.
Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow.